killing Miracle Rogue with just these small minions and putting on non-stop pressure. And Miracle Rogue just ran out of answers to keep addressing the board.
Yeah, it's very interesting to see if Realz is again going to apply the same strategy with small minions. And he has a couple of small minions to actually put them on board and start dealing damage. Also, I'm really excited to see Lothar being played on by both players. Lothar is a game-changing card, and played at the right moment can actually win you the game. If Miracle Rogue is able to play Lothar on like 7 to stop Realz from playing Lay on Hands, he can actually seal his game plan, kind of. On the other hand, Lothar being played by Realz can kill Miracle Rogue and those key turns as well.
Absolutely. I think it's going to come down to control, but Rogue does have a window to burst, and it kind of does depend on how the opening hand is for Realz. By the way, we just got word that Forsen's POV, he unfortunately doesn't have it for the first 2 games. I think I was told that he forgot to record it. He forgot Alex Strasza. He forgot to record the first 2 games, but the good news is we still have Realz POV because he remembered.
That's right. We have the Realz hand. So Forsen is kind of going on blind, so we won't be able to see his hand. But basically, we'll be able to feel what cards he has based on his on the cards he plays. At least I believe so.
This is interesting because all of a sudden it's like watching a stream and kind of watching how Realz is going to be able to do it, except without his spectacular commentary. We're going to try to analyze and see what he's conferring based off what his opponent's being able to play. Realz does have the coin, which is nice. You take away that extra card and the coin from the Miracle Rogue, so that way they can't get spells and more options to deal with things early on. So a nice little start here for Realz.
Yeah, on the other hand, he doesn't have the minions, so he has double True Silver Champion, which is basically 16 points of damage if you just go for face and attack Miracle Rogue. But he doesn't have the 2-drop, he doesn't have the Haunted Creeper, he will have to hero power. On the other hand, he has the Harvest Golem, which is not doing that much damage, but still, it's pretty hard to remove. And would you sub Harvest Golem? You probably don't, you just realize your plan being a Miracle Rogue.
No, Miracle Rogue, the best way they can deal with something like Harvest Golem is usually Deadly Poison and Shift for 3 mana, and that way you effectively remove it while not losing cards, really. And on the flip side, I kind of like the fact that Realz does have a way to answer Auctioneer. He has a quality, which is a very big pickup. It's rare that you have to use a quality before you're able to use Consecration alongside with it on 5 or 6 mana. So Realz does have tools to fight against Forsen early on, and while Pyromancer with a quality is even better, so you can save Consecration if you need it in a better situation.
On the other hand, he doesn't have the mid-range minions, so he has the answer to clear the board. He can probably clear the board even twice, but he will need something. He will need to get those cards, some mid-range cards like Sludge Belcher, like Lothar, like even Black Knight, cards that he can play and push the board a bit to just deal some damage or defend himself.
Yeah, you're definitely right. The tokens, they do annoy, but Rogue can deal with it every turn. Just hero powering, and even having that damage over 2 turns allows him to push out minions in response. So it is a slow start from Realz, and that's not what you want as Paladin. You want to be able to kind of force the removal out because they're saving things like Backstab for their Guidance Hand. But if you force them to use it early, then it's kind of like a situation yesterday where I believe it was 6-0. He couldn't play anything whatsoever, even though the fact that he had Guidance Hands, right? He had like 1 Blade Flurry, and that was it.
Right now it's Forsen's 3rd turn, and we'll see if he is able to play a free drop, a Farseer, SI7, or something else to be able to stabilize with some kind of board. Because Forsen, he really wants to bait the removal out. He wants to play cards so that Realz is forced to clear.
Man, Forsen is taking a long time with these first couple of turns.
Well, he had a beer in his hand, so maybe he's just taking
He's slow rolling Realz already, huh? BMing to start off the series, not bad. Or did Forsen, for some reason, had a problem? Maybe he disconnected and had to reconnect. Hopefully that's not the case. He's able to stabilize. He ends up just attacking and passing. While Realz looks like he's going to have a very clear turn 3 just to load up the board with something. Play the Harvest Golem, pass it over. You have True Silver for whatever mid-range creature comes out, whether it's a 3-3 or even something like the Thalanos or Drake in the next coming turns.
I think you definitely play the Harvest Golem here. There's no need to coin out to True Silver, so just play Harvest, stabilize the board. But Realz is taking his time. He's counting the cards. He's thinking if he's going for the damage here. Well, maybe True Silver is actually interesting here because this is kind of a race. if you play True Silver, how much damage can you deal? So Reels is taking all those options into consideration here, just counting the cards, counting damage. We know that Reels is really getting into the game. He's not just playing card by card. He's mapping out the whole match, getting a couple of turns ahead of himself, and like just seeing what is your opponent going to play and countering this.
Now, speaking of countering it, I think Forsen taking a long time. You think you're kind of wondering why doesn't he just play, but the Miracle Rogue really ponders about whether or not they can get away with attacking certain things, if they're going to re-dagger or they're going to play something just naked on the board if they feel comfortable with it. It's very clear that Forsen had the opportunity to just attack last turn and play something like SI7 Agent without actually dealing damage, but instead he wants to get value off of his minions. So these kind of decisions do take a little bit of time, even though it seems like an obvious play. You do want to play out the course of your next few turns, just like you mentioned.
Yeah, certainly Miracle Rogue is not an easy deck to play. There's a lot of cards you can play every turn, but depending on what you get, what you draw, you make those decisions. It's either just dealing some damage, getting value out of the cards, or just digging for the answers, digging for the combo. Because the thing about Miracle Rogue is that the cards themselves are really weird. Like you sometimes end up with those preparation cards that just do nothing. You really need Gadgets and Auctioneer to make the deck tick. It's like a lot. People commented on the deck that when you get all those single cards, all of them are pretty weak, like just bad cards that you will never play. Like there is no value in them, but just the combinations that Miracle Rogue provides make the whole 30-card deck really strong.
Oh my, Realz drops the Lotheb. And I think this is because he prioritizes killing off the SI7 agent, but he realizes Sludge Belcher will be extremely vulnerable to something like a 5 damage Eviscerate, which is likely based off what Rogue usually keeps on their usually draws into, and you don't want to kind of have an easy removal for a 5 mana cost creature. So Realz drops Lotheb before he sees anything like Gadget Sand. Do you have any opinions on this, Nibs?
Yeah, I feel like this was a pretty nice play here because, well, exactly what your opponent can play. You feel like there's no way he will play Gadget Sand because of Lotheb. And the only card he can play is Azure Drake, but then again, he can easily answer Azure Drake with True Silver Champion. So it's kind of like forcing your opponent to play Azure Drake if he has one, to be able to answer it easily. On the other hand, now Forsen can actually play Gadget and Conceal if he has them. But again, Reels can answer those cards.
Yeah. I think it's really intelligent the more I think about it, forcing these reactions, but he's not opting for the true silver play. Instead, he's looking to drop the Sludge Belcher.
Humility.
And humility combination. Yep.
Right.
And it makes sense. It makes sense, you know, the fact that he can continue pushing and develop the board, it's acting like 3 damage anyways. He can choose over next turn and accomplish the same exact thing. The Gadget Sand is out for Forsen, and the chain draws will begin. Preparation to lead off. I believe he has 1 more mana at least after he plays his 1 spell, Fan of Knives, and he might have something like Conceal.
Still, even if there is no Conceal or if the Gadget Sand is cleared, Forsen was able to cycle his preparation, which is useless otherwise. He was able to cycle Fan of Knives and get 2 cards out of it, and again cycle Conceal. So Forsen was able to switch like 4 cards from his hand for that Gadget Sand. Also, Equality Consecration is good in here, but then again his minions are vulnerable to another Fan of Knives or even a Shiv.
Yeah, but he just saw his opponent use it. You're trying to deny your opponent's draw as much as possible. This is an absolute necessary measure. There's no need to kind of use anything like Pyromancer either, because you don't want to give up your own minions.
It's pretty interesting, like Forsen is actually dropping pretty low with 70 points of health, and the Shiv exactly as a cold.
Yep.
And backstep as well, so Forsen getting value out of those small cards and a big Edwin.
Wow. He's seen humility, he's seen equality, so he's trying to kind of play into another win condition. Sure, maybe he doesn't draw a lot of cards, but is there a big is there a response to a big minion like the Van Cleef? Realz might draw it. Something like Peacekeeper at the top would be massive, but he doesn't get it.
This was a pretty sick play by Forsen. He's seen equality, he's seen humility as well. So right now, Realz is forced to actually raise the 8/8 Edwin, a weapon, and almost full hand from Miracle Rogue, who just cycled a lot of those small useless cards into something better.
And he might have Leroy combos to finish the game. There's 11 on board, and then there's only 15 left to pair, so just double Shadow Step is enough. And he does have the mana, I believe he's on 9. So he can end the game if he has a combination, but Forsen's hesitation kind of indicates he probably doesn't have it, or that he's probably 1 damage away from it.
Forsen is still sitting safely on 2 more turns, because Realz is playing more like a control-ish mid-range deck. He has 6 damage on board, yeah, but this is not enough to kill Forsen. It's still... There's 7 more needed to actually clear the board and kill Forsen. And the Lothep drop is really devastating here. It's exactly the turn that you seal your opponent so that you grant yourself a win next turn.
Yeah, basically, again, force your opponent to have something more. The Owler Peacekeeper, he would need to have 2 of them in order to kind of reduce this damage. It stings because, once again, Realz is just stuck playing super defensive, loading up whatever he can, attacking, trying to gain health. His opponent, once again, represents 13, so now the condition just becomes Leroy, Shadow Step, and a hero power.
The thing is, if Forsen actually gets a board clear here... Oh my god, there is a Leroy. This means only one thing.
That the game is over and has been decided. Shadow Step has been shown, which means all Forsen needs is a hero power to end the game, because there is 13 on board. So Realz will drop the Paladin, which has served tried and true. Wait, he had double Shadow Step? Oh my goodness.
Oh my god, this is overkill.
Uh-oh. Is he going to do anything else for us? Maybe a preparation, Fan of Knives, and, I don't know, backstab your own Leroy at this stage. What is it? It's going to be a sap.
This is so sick. Realz was really wrecking Group A with a 9-1 score, but here he faces Forsen, who was advancing from Group B.
I'm looking at Forsen's deck and kind of figuring out if there's any way he can kind of counter this easily with some other cards, but you make a good point. Only 1 Farseer. He is running double Fan of Knives, which is nice against a lot of the 1 health minions, but it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. It's not impossible for Miracle Rogue, but it's very unlikely. I know people kind of throw out percentages, so people kind of say this is like a 75 to 80% chance usually for the Backspace Rogue if they get something like 1 drops to put on early pressure.
So certainly we are giving edge to Realz again, but yet again, Forsen has a beer. So it will be very interesting to see how this game will finish. For this game, we won't be able to see Forsen's hand again, but well, Miracle Rogue has a weird hand, so who wants to see that anyway?
I don't know. It really depends. This is even the same beer that Forsen's drinking earlier. Realz picks up a 1 drop, by the way, super critical, and also the fact that he is going turn 1 does kind of stink, because sometimes you want to put out double one drop. Also take away an extra card from Miracle Rogue is extremely important.
Are you seeing this? First time in this tournament, there is a Leper Gnome.
Nope, let's not talk. Let's not even acknowledge it past the fact that he's playing it on turn 1.
He played it on turn 1. So good.
Forsen says, well played. I think maybe he's like, at this point, he realized he mulliganed it properly by any chance. He's like, oh my god. Maybe he kept something like Gadget in when you can't really necessarily afford to keep Gadget in. Sometimes if you know it's Backspace Rogue, you need to be able to reduce the damage pronto. And Forsen already taking damage from the Leper Gnome gives it immediate value.
This is the power of the Leper Gnome. It made a statement. The Leper Gnome just announced, hey, I'm not a Miracle Rogue. I'm a Backspace Rogue, and I'm going to deal a lot of damage here.
Realz picks up Defi's Ringleader. A Cold Light Oracle is nice too, so Realz can start drawing into ways to end the game. There's lots of Chargers, Deadly Poison, Assassin's Blade. There's ways he can just continue to push out damage over the next couple of turns and really put the hurt on. Forsen will need to be able to respond. And this is where something like Ascension Shield Master in the past used to be really valuable for the Miracle Rogues when they teched it in, because you're able to kind of reduce the damage, not only in just a Miracle matchup, mirror to mirrors rather, but also against aggressive rogues like this.
By the way, I find it so funny that Cold Light Oracle is actually good in this matchup, because you would never want to give cards to Miracle Rogue. At least you will think so. But on the other hand, it's just the Backspace Rogue is getting so much value out of those cards, because every card is just dealing damage. And Miracle Rogue has no taunts. And also, the Miracle Rogue just can't heal, so you just deal this damage. Just dealt 7 damage this turn, which is super sick. He still has a lot of cards, a lot of damage potential in his hand, and he will be drawing into more. Almost every card in Backspace Rogue and this aggressive rogue is dealing damage, or just empowering the cards that deal damage to deal even more damage. Forsen down to
Yes.
19.
But Forsen has been able to only take one round of those damages. You know, he hasn't taken, he hasn't like double dipped on the Leopard Gnome, for example. He was able to shiv the South Sea deck cancel. That way he reduced damage, but still is looking pretty bad. But it could be much worse. Oftentimes you're looking at maybe a next turn kill from the Rogue. He
It
looks like
seems
he's able
like
to pair something else.
Realz right now has 13 points of damage. If he is able to get 3 more points of damage in one card, that's it.
With deadly poison, just you're saying it perfectly. His opponent is basically at the point where if he picks up any card worth damage whatsoever, then this game is over. There's so many ways to deal with it, with cold bloods, eviscerates, etc. And
It looks like
chargers.
turn 7 kill. Right now he has 8 points of damage in his hands, just like that. And 5 more from the weapon. It's 13.
That's why they call it the turn 7 rogue. At least in Asia they do. In the West they call it backspace because he was the one that kind of introduced it with his version with Cold Oracles and shadow stepping it to draw cards, maybe even mill sometimes.
Definitely. This is a very strong deck against Miracle Rogue. It's actually weak versus Druid, so if Forsen loses here, I believe he will take his Druid to counter this deck, or maybe even we'll see the Priest. Priest might be also cool with all the healing and taunts. Now he gets his only Farseer, but is it enough?
Fan of Knives, but I think that costs all his mana. Unless he has preparation to continue it, that's 11
That's
damage.
it.
With the South Sea deckhand, that is more than enough. He's got him covered. And Realz strikes back with the turn 7 kill and snipes the Miracle Rogue, which is pretty much what this deck functions as.
Thanks to Leopard Gnome. Don't forget.
I didn't need Leopard Gnome, but it certainly didn't hurt. The Cold Light Oracle strategy, which might make it more hesitant for Realz, unless he's in a situation where he needs to draw for the extra card for damage. Say he needs to Shadow Step it for one more, draw something like a Cold Blood to finish the game. Who knows?
So this is the first time in this match that we are actually giving edge to Forsen. So he has both edge and a beer. I'm terrified. What will happen?
I think Miracle Rogue still overall is favored against Paladin. So I feel like he was favored in the first matchup. I think Realz was really hoping that Forsen would open something like Druid because he's been doing that in the previous series. It kind of makes sense. You know, Rogue does still have tougher matchups, but when you ban something like Warlock, maybe Forsen felt confident in leading with it. So I don't know. I don't really think that Realz planned on having Paladin hit his Miracle Rogue's or his opponent's Miracle Rogue, but now that he's able to kill it anyways, maybe this backspace Rogue can carry him.
Yeah, this is a pretty interesting matchup. Well, I would definitely think that Forsen will be playing Miracle Rogue, by the way.
To lead off?
Yeah, to lead off, like Forsen being a Miracle Rogue specialist. But here we can see the game and the mulligan. Forsen is on the coin, and Realz is starting with a pretty bad hand. Probably he has the Cold Light Oracle and a Shadow Step, which is pretty tricky. You can get a lot of cards out of it, but as discussed, you are giving a lot of cards to your opponent as well.
I mean, it is a draw engine, right? One of the things about aggressive decks that they struggle with all the time, especially a deck like this one, is you play your 1-drops and then you run out of cards. It's very easy by turn 4 or 5 that you're top decking, and then you have nothing else to do, and your opponent just continues to cycle, and you're just completely getting your board wiped and you lose. So Realz feels like he's gonna value the ability to draw into things that will continue to his pressure. Now, Assassin's Blade is a very important card because it bashes into that warrior armor effectively over the course of a few turns and able to kind of pull yourself back in. So Realz is going to continue to get cleared. Warrior is already a tough matchup, though, for this very reason. Effective armor gains with easy clears like Full Taskmaster.
Double deadly poison on that Assassin's Blade will be so huge, but on the other hand, Forsen has all the low drops in the world that he wanted to draw for this matchup. He has the Armor Smith, he had the Taskmaster to deal with the threat, he also has the Unstable Ghoul. So right now, Forsen is the one stabilizing the board. Is Realz going to be able to actually deal with this? Because mostly you just want to attack face, like you don't want to trade minions unless you get something like Blade Flurry, but there is no Flurry on his side, so he might not have a choice and play Cold Light Oracle here.
Yeah, this stings if you're Reels. Shadow stepping it also might make sense here, just because you need to kind of continue to dig for answers. The problem is the unstable ghoul is also not just a taunt, but a life gain because of the way it synergizes with things like Armor Smith. So Reels is in big trouble. Forsen picks up more ways to respond. He even gets something like Shield Block, which is a very important card in this matchup.
He has double shield block. Oh my god, this is potentially 10 life increase. So you're fighting against like 40 life hero right now, being Reels. So we have the board. The board is pretty tough. He's like Forsen is gaining life, and also he has those shield blocks for like future turns. This looks really bad for Reels.
It depends. Reels has a lot of damage too, but there is a point where, again, Warrior just has way too much life. They're putting pressure. They still have damage on board, and you're not dealing with it because you're ignoring and going for phase. If they're able to be really efficient and gain too much life, you just can't really do anything. And 36 is starting to get to that range where maybe you can't do anything whatsoever because how you're supposed to pair together that much burst and finish off your opponent.
Well, in theory, the Assassin's Blade is doing 21 points of damage total. So that will put Forsen on only 17 more points of health. So if you're able to deal 17 plus with Leroy, Arcane Golem, it would probably look good. This double deadly poison is just so good in here.
So many options.
Yeah, but it does take a few turns to kind of push it out, which gives opportunities for Forsen to continue armoring up. If he has that's why second shield block, like you mentioned, was so important. How does Reels kind of go about this? Does he give his opponent for ability to continue to gain armor and be able to extend the duration of this game?
So potentially being Reels on turn 8, because if you play Deadly Poison now and start attacking, you will have 3 turns of attacks with your weapon. So potentially on turn 8, you will be able to play a Leroy plus Arcane Golem plus Cold Bloods, which is 14 plus 7, it's 21 points of damage. So if this turn he is able to deal some damage to hero, and next turn be able to deal enough to have a kill on turn 8, well, that might turn out to be a game for Reels. Like, he has so much damage potential on the next 2 turns.
He does, and it kind of depends on how Forsen reads the situation. He wants to kind of go for clears. At the same time, he can't really utilize too much of his health as a resource. So as much as a Fiery War Axe is great value, sometimes you're not even wanting to trade with this. The same concept as you're facing aggro Paladin or Hunter, where Fiery War Axe is a great value card, but oftentimes it's not what you want to be able to use for removal because you're racing yourself too at that stage.
It's pretty interesting here being Forsen. You have so many cards, so many good cards, but what's the order of how you play them? So you can probably remove the board, you can take some damage. On the other hand, Forsen right now is in defensive mode. Like, he won't be able to win the game in the next 2-3 turns. And Reels will be dealing damage every turn and trying to get to that magical Leroy turn where he's able to deal 14 points of damage out of nowhere. He also has the Cold Light if he wants to next turn. So the longer the game actually gets, it's better for Reels. It's very surprising.
Ooh,
oh my
second
God,
Arcane Golem. Well, let's see. So he's got, again, you said 10 from the dagger, maybe even more if he adds his Deadly Poison. The charges are about the same either way, whether it's daggered or not. Leroy plus 2 Arcane Golems is 14 plus the 8 Cold Blood and Viscerate. So that's 22. That's a lot. He's got him covered.
I think it's important that the next turn, if he plays Deadly Poison now, next turn he's able to play Leroy, Cold Blood, Arcane Golem, which is 14 points of damage, and with Deadly Poison on a weapon, that's 21 points of damage next turn. So how much damage does he have to deal this turn to be able to win next turn with 21 points of damage? I feel like he has to play Deadly Poison now. And
certainly, because you get to charge the 4 damage over. And something like the SI7 agent also makes sense. But don't forget things like Armor Smith. The Armor Smith also gives him a lot of health.
I think like Arcane Golem is actually a play in here as well. You just attack for 4, get them to 21, because next turn you have
Choose suit.
21, was it? Yeah, it's 21 next turn. Okay, so I would probably play this turn a bit differently, and I would play the Deadly Poison before, but still, Realz is in a very good situation here. He doesn't have to rush. He still has like 18 points of health. See, I think he still has like 2 more turns at least. So he can keep that Leroy for the lethal turn in 2 more turns. He still has a sap even, like if Forsen plays something that's annoying, he can sap it.
Well, Forsen does have shield block, so again, he can continue and extend the length of this game as long as he can. He has a lot of cards at his disposal. The Undead Ghoul, again, puts a pretty big wrench into things. Chargers have a hard time bursting through, but then things like Sap become very valuable. Hovering over shield block would be good to kind of get things started defensively. And again, things like Fiery War Axe, you don't want to give your ability to for your opponent the ability to burst immediately. So they are sitting kind of dead in your hand for now.
Being Forsen, you definitely expect cards like Leroy, Arcane Golem, and a lot of bursts. So you want to clear the board, and you want to play a taunt as well, so that you're... Well, taunt is always good. There is a 5-1 weapon. Oh wait, it's a 7-1 weapon actually even. So if Ghoul is able to stop 7 points of damage, that would be pretty awesome. So this turn, you kind of want to play Shield Block. You want to play the Ghoul and clear the board. Is it possible?
If you use Slam, it is, but then you can't armor up either. So he's going to kind of go for the armor up play, see what he can do from that point on. It seems like he's going to drop the Undead Ghoul and use the Firework to start pressuring. Now, keep in mind, not the Beard Rogue, sorry. The Backspace Rogue will be at 15 health, so if he continues to pick up cards like Gromosh and his opponent gives him mana with Arcane Golem, he might be able to just kill him in response and not have to play super defensive when he can maybe just turn on the Jets
Oh my god, how
and
much
end the
damage
game.
is this?
It's
16,
definitely not
25.
enough, though.
Okay, it's not enough, but it's so close. Yeah, I think you Arcane Golem here. You probably kill the Unstable Ghoul with Eviscerate. You might even play one Cold Bloods.
I think you play the Cold Blood for sure, because the Cold Blood is usually going to be used for damage anyways. Just sneak it in while you can and you have the mana. In fact, double Cold Blood wouldn't even be bad.
With double Cold Blood, it's kind of like giving information to your opponent how much life he has left. Because right now, if he attacks with just the Arcane Golem, he'll get forced into 20. And how do you feel being on 20? I would feel okay with only 3 cards in my opponent's hand.
The problem is that he can't fit in Cold Blood with Sap the following turn, so he has to use it here. He doesn't have a mana. He only has 9 mana, so his idea is if something big comes out and he needs to deal with it, he saps, then plays Leroy and Arcane for 10 damage, plus whatever he can do. So he's just hoping for the best, but this is, again, where something like Shield Block becomes ultra valuable for Forsen, and Realz will try to end the game, but unfortunately, I think it's going to be put out of reach for the next turn or two.
That Shield Block is pretty painful for Realz. He was hoping that there is no second Shield Block, but there it is. Well, even a simple Armor Up was actually getting Forsen out of the lethal range, but still, Realz needs to draw some more points of damage, and most of the cards in his deck just provide those points of damage. He only has 12, but getting like a Leper Gnome right now would be pretty bad. You don't want to get those passive cards, but he got most of the charge cards. He already used the double Arcane Golem. I mean, he has them in hand. He used double Cold Blood. He used one Eviscerate. If he draws a Shadow Step, is it enough?
Ooh, Armor Smith. So Forsen will continue to he chooses to continue to gain life and put himself potentially out of range. Realz could pick up something big like Shadow Step and still end this game, but he draws a Blood Knight. And that's not going to be helpful right now. I mean, it puts something on the board.
Blood Knight is kind of like a blank. The thing is, like, Forsen doesn't have Gromosh, but is Forsen able to finish the game with just Ragnaros? I don't think so. Forsen needs a Gromosh to win this game.
He thought about dropping Spectral Knight because he would have the damage with just Gorehowl and Spectral Knight if he attacked with Fiery War Axe. So he thought about it, but he realized how low he is at health. 14 still feels kind of a small amount if your opponent had his second Shadow Step, and ways to kind of rack in the damage from there.
14 with the second shadow step would be lethal. I'll sap the 1/4. Well, I guess there is no choice. You just want to play cards and hope that they can deal some points of damage. But this,
I think so. Oh, wow, he
Oh
burns
my
the
God.
Gromash.
that is huge. He would actually win with Gromash.
Would he? Did he have Cool Taskmaster?
Oh, he doesn't have this Taskmaster.
No, he only has Slam, unfortunately. But that is a nice pick off there for the mill, and now there's one charger Realz doesn't have to deal with, but there still is the potential for opponent to burst with something like Orhowl. So it's not over yet, and this big whirlwind to clear the minion also gains more health from Realz. It's starting to become more desperate by the second. Each turn, he's getting higher health. Southsea Deccan has 2 extra damage. Still not enough. And if you play a
Forsen-
minion, it becomes vulnerable for more armor with the Armor Smith.
Forsen has lethal next turn with Ragnaros. So, unfortunately for Realz, he didn't get it. He ran out of steam. He was pretty close. He had a lot of burst. How much damage did he even deal this game? I think like Forsen had like 45 health in total, or like 46 with triple or quadruple armor up, double shield block. So to win this game, Realz just had to deal more than 46 points of damage. That's crazy.
But again, that's what Warrior does. The double shield block, so critical. The fact that he drew both Armor Smiths as well to continue to gain life was very nice, but look at how much that Forsen's drawn too because of things like the Coolite Oracles. So it's not even like Forsen got quote-unquote lucky. The Coolite Oracle assisted Forsen to drawing these cards. We were saying how it's a tough matchup for the Backspace Rogue in general. I think Realz was kind of prepared this from the start. It seemed like Forsen's about to hit fatigue even faster than his opponent is. That's the nature of this series, and he's going to go for the Ragnaros finish.
He was thinking about BMing Realz with executing his own minion, but unfortunately he couldn't.
No, it's a lesson we learned months ago from Fight Night. Realz dropped with the pressure. Innervate really gives Warrior a hard time. You innervate something like the Druid Claw or Violet Teacher out, keep their armor low, force them to have either shield block, shield slam, or execute. And things like slam will stall them with Fiery War Axe, but you're also trading your own armor, and then the Savage War does finish you. You're never able to get in that comfortable life range, despite the fact that you can keep armoring up. So if Realz gets a lightning fast start, it doesn't matter if he doesn't have Wild Growth, he still has Innervate to kind of gain tempo, and the game just snowballs from there.
On the other end, there is a Brawl as well, so it's hard if you have Violet. Sometimes you can have a really good hand with Violet Teacher Innervate into Power of the Wild, and you execute this, and you have like a super board, and then you face a Brawl, and you're out with a 2/2 minion, so it's pretty devastating. On the other hand, Innervate into Spectral Knight might be super good. Realz gets a coin, and he gets an Innervate and Violet Teacher and Argent Squire. Oh my god, this hand is so good for Token Druid.
It's the ideal hand if he picks up something like Power of the Wild in the next draw or two. Forsen, meanwhile, has an interesting choice. Execute is a card that's very powerful against Innervate, especially when you have cool Taskmaster to proc it. And if you're worried about an early Innervate, that is your ticket to make sure you don't take enough damage. So those two cards I like. Shield Block is a little bit of a depends who you're asking card. Some players like keeping in their open hands, some players don't.
I feel like you have to keep the Cruel Taskmaster Execute because you're not sure what kind of Druid are you facing. And one of the most devastating cards and scenarios that the Warrior can face against Druid is a turn 1 Yeti. So you probably want to keep that Execute. Forsen actually decides to mulligan them away.
Yeah, that's interesting. I wonder what he's trying to dig for. It seems like he's being extremely aggressive to try to draw a specific card. The fact that he's willing to throw away execute that quickly.
Oh
but
my
he does
God.
does have Slam and Fiery War Axe, which allows him to deal with any 5 health creature, but with Power of the Wild, it puts Violet Teacher out of range for that. And
Look
that
at
might
that
give
hand.
Forsen a hard time.
Look at that hand from Realz. So many spells. Violet Teacher, Power of the Wild. This is just insane. And an Ancient of Lore is a follow-up. Oh my god. This looks so good. How do you even lose?
I like the fact that he's saving it too, because let's see, on turn 3, okay, you can coin Violet Teacher, Innervate Power of the Wild. Turn 5, you can also Innervate out the Ancient of Lore. This hand is so ridiculous. It's incredibly explosive. Forsen is going to be in for a nightmare of a time unless he draws into some answers.
I think he needs a brawl badly. He will really need that brawl. Right now, the coin into Violet Teacher, Innervate, Power of the Wild. You can even innervate the Haunted Creeper actually.
Ooh, and give up your turn 5 play.
Well,
I
turn
will-
5 you play Ancient of Lore.
Yeah, exactly. So if you use your Haunted Creeper and you innervate it now, then you're not able to kind of use the innervate for
He's
the Haunted Creeper,
actually
but it
going
might
for
be
it.
too good to pass. It might be too good to pass up, and I think Forsen realizes the big wombo combo for a full board presence is going to be extremely hard to come back from. As Realz draws also a Defender of Argus, so he does have a turn 4 follow-up. Oh
Forsen's finding it
no.
well played. By the way, this is the first game that we can actually see Forsen's hand. Wait, we actually seen it the last game as well.
Yeah, Forsen has resumed the recording as of game 3, and we're happy to have him here. Second shield slam, so let's see, how can he pair everything together? He can definitely deal with the Violet Teacher, but it's about pairing things effectively.
There's no brawl, so you will have to. Do you slam to increase the chance of getting brawl? Like, how do you even deal with those 2/2s? Forsen
Here comes a little bit of BM here from Forsen. Well, he has the option to slam and then attack and then shield slam to deal with the Violet Teacher. That is the biggest priority, but then he's still looking at 8 damage.
Strike.
He can use a little bit of his own health as a resource as well with Fiery War Axe, but again, that's not preferable either.
He can't even actually shield slam the Violet Teacher here.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, he actually can. He can also shield slam one of the minions. But do you do it? I guess you can.
You're taking too much damage otherwise. They're going to be shredding armor and shield slam becomes useless.
Well, Realz has oh my god, there is a Savager even.
Yeah,
He's
with Defender of
messaging
Argus, this
Kara.
is going to continue to build up the board.
Right now, Realz can
Oh, the burns! Somebody get Gar some water. Because that burns. Oh my god. And it's continuing going on. Well, Forsen is paying attention to at least one thing here, because it looks like he's lost focus a little bit on the game. Or has he?
Well, coming back to Realz hand, Realz can play Haunted Creeper and finish the Armorsmith with Shapeshift. He might also play Defender of Argus if he wants to. I wonder if he's actually thinking about using Savager in here. Savager into 12 points of damage and killing the 1/1. I guess you probably just use play the Haunted Creeper in case there is a brawl. You want to have at least some value from those minions.
Oh man, Forsen's such a good entertainer. Man, it's hilarious. I completely agree. I think saving Defender of Argus makes sense. Putting out Haunted Creeper just continues to build the board. Wait to see what your opponent does too. If he draws like Brawl, you don't want to overextend. And this actually makes it more
Unstable
brawl proof.
really nice.
Yeah, that's an important top deck for sure.
And he's killing the spider. But Realz has Defender of Argus, so he will be able to actually save the spiders and deal even more damage. Argent Squire pickup is still good if you're playing not afraid of the brawl and just forcing your way through.
It's interesting that if he plays to buff the Argent Squire, then Black Knight all of a sudden picks up value. You don't really get Black Knight value because Druid of the Claws are often in cap mode and charge you for 4 damage. So
I think like
in an interesting way, it might pick up value from Black Knight in a nice way.
I think what he does is he buffs the 1/1 tokens with Defender of Argus and then kills the Unstable Ghoul with 2 of his 2/2s, plays the Argent Squire and attacks for 6 total. So he ends up with the board of 4 minions, even 5 minions actually, that are pretty formidable. And with Forsen not being able to deal with them, the Savage Roar next turn might actually be lethal. Or close to lethal. He's actually deciding not to play Defender of Argus. Oh wait, okay. He is playing Defender.
He is. He's just trying to see what he can do. You know, you can't really play around things like Whirlwind too much. You just have to kind of absorb the damage, play the Argent Squire last. Completely agree with the play. Not to mention that it makes things like Black Knight much weaker, which is almost certain to come out from Forsen.
This is definitely better than what I suggested because he was able to save a 2/2 minion instead of a 1/1 minion.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, you know, Forsen has kind of continued to fight back against the board, but his opponent keeping up the pressure. Realz picks up Power of the Wild. Wow. Continuing to build up the presence of the board presence, and next turn he does have Ancient of Lore.
Do you actually Savage Roar in here? Power of
How
the
much damage does
Wild,
he have?
Savage Roar to be able to clear.
That's 8 plus 8. That's 16 damage.
Oh
That
yeah,
is
he can actually
16
attack
damage.
face. He can attack face. He can also clear the Black Knight. But I feel like being at this point, you just go face kind of. And also he has the Ancient of Lore for next turn. So if he actually like plays Power of the Wild, Savage Roar, clears the Black Knight, goes for face with the rest of the damage, he ends up having an upper hand. And Forsen will have to clear the board, somehow stabilize. And Forsen only has 3 cards in his hand. And right now we know that only one of them is usable. So then Realz pushes with damage, wins the board, wins the tempo war, and he has Ancient of Lore as a fantastic follow-up next turn.
And the Savage Roar does come out. He has the ability to trade in as well, and it looks like he will. To try and pressure and keep as much damage as possible. Forsen has big, heavy minions, but he can't even play a couple of them. Shield block off the top. Hopefully chain draws into something better. But he does need to stabilize.
Shield block into shield block.
Hmm.
You need to kill one of those minions and armor up.
So.
Still, you're facing 5 points of damage next turn, and there is an Ancient of Lore. It's so annoying when you see the Druid having only 1 card. You're like, yeah, this is even. I'm doing good. And then there is this Ancient of Lore.
Absolutely. Reloads the hand, matches it card for card, at least what he's holding, and then is able to continue putting pressure. 5 damage, completely negates the
Savage
shield
Roar
block.
again. Oh my god.
And a Loatheb.
Well, I think even the more important thing is that he will have Druid of the Claw and Savage Roar next turn, so possibly 6-8 points of damage from empty hand.
Oh, and he cleaves, misses the Argent Squire. And Forsen apologizing to himself because he realized, or maybe he's trying to get Grommash to apologize to him because that was a failed RNG roll. Forsen will get Savage Roar and pushed out of Game 4. The series is evened up. But it's okay because the Warrior has at least taken out one important deck from Realz. And now he has a choice. But it is going to be Druid or Priest. And it makes me feel like he's going to favor the Druid because Priest sometimes struggles against the flurry of 4-attack minions for advice.
You never
know. By the way,
know.
Forsen is not running the Circle of Healing Akanai combo, which is another way to kind of deal with the fact that your opponent's swarming the board with all these Death Rattle minions. You have a way to combo with Wild Pyromancer, but oftentimes the Akanai Soul Priest and Circle of Healing is a reset button, a mass destruction on the board, and he doesn't have it, which also means he doesn't run Injured Blade Master, which is a great way to respond if you coin it out. And put out a 4/7, Druid can't really respond to it easily, and that might be your way to destroy things like Druid the Claws early on and Violet Teachers. So again, another reason why Forsen might struggle, but we don't know how things will open up. You know, Northshire Cleric can draw cards early against things like Argent Squires and Haunted Creepers. Pyromancer always can go for clears, and you just keep resetting Druid board. They never have an opportunity to Savage Roar.
Also, guys, remember, we are watching the VGVN Tournament Video Gamers Game Voters Network, and you can actually enter to win a PC, so just take part in our raffle here, and just type ! giveaway to take part, and have fun.
Definitely do that. Now, the opening hands have been shown. Forsen does have a pretty nice curve, and he does have ways to deal with early game threats with taunts and Shadow Word Pain. Meanwhile, Realz has the ever-important cards Spectral Knight and Innervate, which could spell disaster. Depends on how things pan out for the first couple of turns for Forsen.
Right now, Realz just got Violet Teacher, which is pretty important. But basically, well, I like his hand, kind of. He has a Haunted Creeper, he has the Violet Teacher, Spectral Knight. He will be able to play that Spectral Knight early if he really wants to. But
Oh, I think he
Forsen,
really wants to.
he definitely really wants to play it early.
There is no reason not to. I think this is one of the most powerful turn 3s you could ever imagine against Priest. Although he might want to consider a few other things too. Maybe Druid the Claw and killing off this Northshire Cleric picks of value. It's also a 4-attack creature. How can your opponent respond to it? The best way is a Holy Smite with Pyromancer, but again, how likely is it that he have that combo? And you deny your opponent 2 draw mechanics. Because if you deal with the second Northshire Cleric, Priest often doesn't have a way to draw that easily unless they're able to continue to cycle.
Well, the thing is also, if he uses Innervate in here, basically if you're using Innervate, you want to have a follow-up, so you're either using it as a combo or you're keeping it to have a good curve. And here, he will use Innervate. He is just thinking which card to actually put into the game. If you're going to play Spectral Knight or Druid of the Cloud, the thing is like, he will play one of the 5-drops here. Then he has Violet Teacher on turn 4, which is pretty good, and again a 5-drop on turn 5, which is a curve that looks actually pretty good.
Actually, I like Druid the Claw the more I look at it. You're taking out his draw mechanics. Spectral Knight is still going to rain terror. The only thing that I think Realz also has to be hesitant about is if a Power Word Shield comes out, and then he's like drawing a lot of cards with Pyromancer and Circle of Healing, and then all of a sudden he gets a huge card advantage, and then he's dropping these minions, which Priest can continue to answer every single time. And this is also another thing where he's a little bit, unfortunately, cock-blocked by this Deathlord, and he's not able to push through, which means that this Deathlord, once again, is going to be playing a pacifist game.
On the other hand, the Deathlord, at some point, Deathlord will die, but I definitely like Deathlord and Priest, because you can just heal it up. It's really not easy to kill the Deathlord. And he will still... It seems like the Druid of the Claw was actually a better play. Because the 1-free Northshire Cleric would be just dead, and he wouldn't... like, Forsen wouldn't be able to get the value of the draw here. But right now, it looks weird for Realz.
That's quite unfortunate, as Realz hasn't had an explosive start, and Deathlord has put a halt. But let's not call it too early. Deathlord has the ability to backfire severely, or do something kind of innocuous, like drop an Argent Squire, and maybe not have that much impact. But this Spectral Knight seems like it's just going to be passing for this turn, until maybe Realz has an opportunity to strike back. And that's going to give the ability for Forsen to maybe do something cool with draws, and he has Shadow Word Pain to answer this Violet Teacher, and then be able to combo off of this. Draw some cards.
Basically, if you're drawing cards from Northshire Cleric, it sounds great, but on the other hand, you have to spend 2 mana to draw a card, so it's kind of like a life tap for Warlock. But here, Forsen has this Shadow Word Pain to be able to deal with the 3/5, which is a pretty good trade. A card for 2 mana, a card for 4 mana. It's very nice. He actually doesn't draw.
In today's metagame, Shadow Word Pain often doesn't get that good value because of the Death Rattle, so things like Oasis Snapjaw and Violet Teacher are often the best you're going to ever get. Unless your opponent's foolish enough to play my X and slash draw it off of Web Spinner.
He's going for it.
Oh, it's an Argent Squire.
The worst possible minion. Even a Haunted Creeper would be better. So bad.
Well, at least Realz won't top deck it later on. I guess that's one thing he can kind of get rid of. But that is not what he wants, especially with things like Pyromancer and Northshire Cleric out there in the game. And the Pyromancer allows him to also trade into the Spectral Knight. And now he also takes the Haunted Creeper, and Forsen has completely reversed the board. This is not what you were expecting right off the bat if you're the Druid player with Spectral Knight Innervate play. And again, look at what Realz has been able, or what Forsen's been able to do, despite having a very unusual Priest deck.
And he still has a Shadow Word Death for that Ancient of Lore. Oh my god. And then doubles Engine. This Priest deck definitely doesn't look like an accident to me.
Well, at least it's working out perfectly. Maybe Forsen was just trying to hype it up for us because he sets our expectations lower, but he performs brilliantly with the double Ancient of Lore is good, though.
Ancient of Lore. Oh my god, this is good for Realz because even with Shadow Word Death, he's still on 26 points of health, so he's still looking good, and he will be able to replenish the whole hand. And on the other hand, Forsen doesn't have any more cards. He has a strong board, but only 2 cards in hand.
Well, he can't be taking damage forever. So he's going to play the second Ancient Lore, but if the opponent responds once more, then he's going to be taking lots of damage, but he does have quality cards in hand. You know, the Spectral Knight, again, giving Priest a Nightmare. You're usually worried about buffing your 4 attack creatures into the range of Shadow Word Death, but Spectral Knight is immune to that.
I guess here you attack into a 5/5 and then use Holy Nova and go face and play the Pyromancer. You go all aggro because you don't have any potential in your hand. Unless you actually go all in. That's a very nice play as well.
Yeah, the Holy Nova and Shadow Madness does represent 5 damage next turn, at least the max 5 damage. So if your opponent doesn't armor up, say he uses like full combo here to clear, then you have a way to kind of kill if your opponent has any kind of small minion remaining. So he's keeping his options flexible in case he needs to lethal with the cards in hand.
Well, here Realz can actually use the combo if he wants to, but do you want to use it? You can attack into a 3/5.
You can also just build the board with something like a Defender of Argus play. But then if your opponent has something like Black Knight in his Priest deck, then you just set up Spectral Knight to die right there. And Spectral Knight usually is one of the hardest cards to remove in the mid game, especially for Priest. So he doesn't feel that great using it.
I guess he's going for Defender of Argus play.
Okay.
This is also okay. Even if because you might be afraid of clearing the board. He wouldn't be able to clear the board anyway. But if he would try to clear the board, he will have to leave the 4/5, and leaving a 4/5 and no taunt on your side would just open you to Holy Fire, just finishing the game. So that's why he went for the taunts play in here.
You realize that if that Pyromancer wasn't Wrath, that was actually lethal because of the Holy Nova able to push through. As a result, Forsen is a little bit short right now, but he's still going to put his opponent under pressure, and if he draws into something like Holy Fire, this game is still over. Realz does have ways to clear, but once again, the situation's starting to get a little dire. You don't often see Druid of the Claw be played in top mode with a token Druid, especially at this stage of the game.
I guess he has to use the combo to clear. And he can do it. You just clear with the combo and hope for the best. Next turn you will be able to play a Taunt and a 4/5, 4/6. You will be at the mercy of any damage, like Holy Fire basically. But your opponent has only 1 card. What do you expect your opponent has?
I mean, he could have something like Power Word Shield and he simply ran out of mana.
You can also play kind of like play the Taunt and a Spectral Knight and hope that your opponent won't be able to clear it, but it's so risky. Like there's even a Holy, how do you call this? The small spell for 1 deals damage.
Holy Smite.
Holy Smite, yeah, that Holy Smite would even kill you. So it was mostly about reducing the number of outs that your opponent can get to kill you.
Sure. It makes sense too. If your opponent has something like Silence or Mass Dispel, which is in Forsen's deck, that would be the end of the game. Realz forced to use the combo and feeling like he has to set up a wall of defense. Maybe he can pull back, but it depends on what Forsen's top decking. Mass Dispel would end the game. That's a phrase I didn't expect to be saying a month ago.
That would be so sick if Mass Dispel actually comes in here.
Oh, it's a Holy
God,
Fire.
That's it.
But of course, Forsen is not going to reveal it immediately. He's going to heal his opponent, pretend like that wasn't according to game plan, and then end the game anyways. Realz knows the game's over.
Realz knows Forsen. They are friends, and he knows that Forsen is BMing at the end. It's all in good fun, even at Realz, because it's like Deathlord dies, it summons the Hyena first, and then the Beast dies, so Hyena's getting buffed.
I didn't know that. That's a cool fact that some people probably are not aware of because Deathlord isn't that common. Maybe it will be, though, because with the Construct quarter coming out soon with things like Wailing Soul or the Wailing Wall, whatever it's called, yeah, the Undertaker, maybe you're willing to play more of these cards that have a backdraft or backfire opportunity because you can silence your own minions. Really cool stuff, being on the verge of release in about 24 hours, which makes me personally very excited. Don't forget, by the way, that Hunter has been so powerful in the recent tournament meta, and it's pretty good against Druid. So if you're a Realz fan, he might be able to pull this one out, but he has to get through this troll of a priest deck that Forsen submitted last secondly because he thought it might be a good idea, but said to us it probably wasn't.
And we can see the players mulliganing now. Forsen is throwing away Cabal, Shadow Priest, Power Wall, Shield, and Holy Nova. This is pretty interesting. I guess he's trying to get the Pyromancer in here. Realz keeping the Kodo. He actually kept the Kodo.
Well, Kodo is able to respond to a lot of the really annoying cards like Northshire Cleric, which might even come out turn 1. If you have a turn 1 Cleric, it can answer almost anything what Hunter does until they drop Animal Companion. And even then, things like Leok become such a big liability.
Also, the freezing trap is actually pretty nice, especially if you get this turn 1 Cleric attacking into a freezing trap, and you have to attack with something. He's going for Animal Companion and getting a Misha. Misha will be easily cleared, even though it's a 4/4, and if you think like, hey, Priest has a problem dealing with this bear.
Ooh. Thought Steal, and he picks up Leroy and Kill Command. Forsen has the ability to maybe burst his opponent late game. That's funny.
Freezing trap is pretty crucial here. With Misha staying on board, still having the 4 health, 4 attack mark, pretty tough for Priest to actually deal with it. And now Pyromancer costs 4 points of mana, so it might be hard for Forsen to actually utilize it.
Yeah, you always hate to give up Kill Command, but against a class like Priest, where they can heal up easily, Kill Command is not a lot of insurance compared to another class like Shaman, for example.
Oh yeah, definitely. You want to just have the minions, you want to deal as much damage as possible, and you want to have those sticky minions that actually live through Holy Nova turn 5.
Alright, Forsen gonna steal the Haunted Creepers and do damage while putting out his own Spectral Spiders, and this is what Priest does best, just harassing as much as they can.
Oh my god, Forsen actually got Leroy and Kill Command.
Yeah, dude. What do you think I was talking about earlier? I say he has the opponent to burst.
This is so sick. I was mostly looking at the on the Realz part of the board. But yeah, I totally agree. On the other hand, I don't feel like he will be able to use those cards effectively. Because his deck is mostly based around, you know, just putting the mid-range stuff, getting the control. So Leroy is kind of like a
man.
card.
Maybe. You never know. You never know. We thought something like Shadow Flame might be useless against something in Amaz's hand against a handlock, but ended up becoming the most valuable card. By the way, Shadow Word Pain, nice target on the Kodo. Kodo did pick up a little bit of value, but it wasn't game-breaking by any means.
Do you play Lothep here? I think you have to. So Realz is kind of missing the buzzard. I bet he really wants to get a buzzard. He didn't get the buzzard with tracking. That was probably disappointing for him. And he will try to dig for it.
Do you suicide the Spectral Spider so that way your opponent can't draw an extra card off of Unleash the Hounds?
I think you do. It's an interesting play also when you're playing with Heads-Up. Oh my god, there is
that is the reason why. Heads-Up play from Forsen denies Realz that 1 extra card. Now he still can continue to chain draw with things like Stone Tuskboar and the Hyena itself.
Do you drop Hyena here? And getting that second buzzer is so important, by the way.
Yeah, I think so. I think you have a great follow-up with things like Hunter's Mark, killing off the Northshire Cleric, and you don't have the guarantee to use up all your mana with just playing Stone Tuskboar, so it makes sense. Realz has a good way to control the board, and puts a 4/3 minion, which is really hard again for Priest to deal with. Your opponent needs to have like Holy Nova with Spell Power or Pyromancer to go for a full board clear. And even then, actually it doesn't, because it kills the beast before it kills off the Hyena, and the Hyena ends up getting stronger.
Now it's so annoying for Forsen that Pyromancer is actually costing 4 mana.
No, but he picks up the Holy Smite, and that is really crucial. I think, wait, the order of this might be really important. I think he should go for the board clear, though, because he gives a 1 AoE clear. All right.
Yeah, he's clearing the board. I mean, he's leaving the Lothep, but it doesn't matter. He was able to clear all those important cards. And the funny thing is that if Realz would actually attack with the Hound, it would be better for him.
Realz draws the
Houndmaster.
Haunted Creeper versus Houndmaster.
You kind of want to play the Haunted Creeper to draw a card, but on the other hand, you know you have to deal with the free 2. Like, you have to deal with the free 2, especially because your opponent just played a Pyromancer for 4 and a Holy Smite, so Kill Command is a pretty nice pick here.
You're still vulnerable to something like Holy Nova, so you're not necessarily that excited to play Kill Command here.
Will you just attack the free 2 with a 5/2? It's just a
No,
waste. I
it's
feel like you have to
worse.
decide Deadly Shot or Kill Command. And I will probably opt for Kill Command because with nothing on board, it will be so much easier to kill whatever Forsen plays. On the other hand, it's like most of the priest minions, they have 5 health, so they shouldn't be that hard to remove unless you actually face Spectral Knight. So that's why I will just use Kill Command and go for face.
What about Deadly Shot? Oh, he is going to go for it. Okay, Deadly Shot accomplishes the same thing. And like you mentioned, Kill Command is more flexible. You can use it on the 5 health minions, which are very common, or go to the face.
I think it was mostly a choice if you're afraid of Spectral Knight. But if you're not, all the priest minions, they have like 5 points of health.
All right, Forsen will use the Kill Command to remove damage, but he leaves up the Buzzard just to kind of reduce the burst potential of what Realz. Now, Realz might not draw a beast, but he picks up a Savannah Highmane. So crucial to continue the chain draws. Realz also has the ability to Kill Command and continue to push through for damage.
Kill Command your own self on a Highmane to draw 3 cards. So sick. Would you do it? I guess you don't have to, but it's a possibility. We've seen Reyna do it to actually win the game at DreamHack.
That was with the Tundra Rhino. I don't think I'll ever forget that Hearthstone game. Pretty epic ending.
I guess Realz is thinking about stuff here. So instead of drawing a card, is there anything else that he can actually do? Like Kill Command the free 5, then maybe buff the Spider. You also have to be wary of the Cowboy Shadow Priest.
I think Savannah Hyman's just too much value to pick up. Sure, you might be afraid at the back of your mind of like Shadow Word Death and Holy Nova, which is often the combo they use to deal with it, but I think the fact that you're pressuring your opponent this much is too good to pass up. But yeah, you do make yourself a little bit vulnerable to that combo.
Right now,
that's
that's good for Forsen.
By the way, Master Spell is going to completely ruin Realz' board.
Well, he still has those minions, but definitely, yeah. It's like the Sludge Belcher is actually a pretty good card in here because he can cast the Master Spell and follow up with Sludge Belcher. And he's going for it. Master Spell. First time ever in the constructed metagame.
Well, hold on. How much damage does Realz have, too? If he draws into something like an Ironbeak Owl, I think he might just win the game.
Tracking
like if he
into
uses
Ironbeak?
tracking, and then like Leok/Huffer into Leroy, is that enough to end the game?
Right now on board, he has 9-11 with the hero power, 17 with Leroy. I don't think so, but I will definitely do tracking here.
See if you can bypass that taunt. Hunter's Mark.
And then second Savannah Highmane.
Interesting choices.
I think I will go for Highmane. It's Master Spell Sludge Belcher is a clear signal for me, like, hey, he has a problem dealing with my Savannah Highmane. So right now, Realz is pretty comfortable with, on 28 points of health, and he is winning this game. He's winning the board, so why not just extend your lead? Especially that you can just deal with the board and also even draw a card. Oh my god, a Huffer. Huffer is a really nice card.
Yeah, he can reduce no damage taken on his Highmane, double Highmane, attacking to the face, put Priest on a clock to deal with this or die next turn. And how does Forsen deal with it? He has things like Holy Fire to stall, but you can't really follow it up. You might have to use Leroy's removal as well.
To use a Roman proverb, he is literally throwing Forsen to the lions.
I think he might Leroy Holy Nova, but instead he Thought Steals.
You see, the Leroy is useless. I told you. It's
No, come on. If that was one high main, you Leroy and Holy Nova to clear the board.
On the other hand, like Holy Nova is pretty nice. You deal one and you kind of deal with the damage from another as well because you just healed 5. How much damage is it?
Wait, unleash the hounds. So he's got 6, 8, 14, plus the unleash the hounds is 3 extra damage. Say it with me, Nimsh. Reels is 1 damage off of lethal.
Oh
It's
my
sending
god,
to
why
game
does
7.
it always happen? Or 1 mana of lethal.
Or 1 mana off lethal. Doesn't matter how you spin it, Reels can't win this turn, but he can posture himself to be in a position to.
I can summarize it in only one word. Bible thump.
Forsen is, he has to draw like a Shadow Word Death to deal with this high main. He gets it! That is so big. He gets a board clear. Is it enough to kind of stay alive? Because he can Holy Nova and heal up.
He will
Gonna
go
be pushing himself
up
to 12 health.
12 with Leroy.
That
Leroy
was
is
exactly it.
basically dealing 8, 10. Oh my god, he's actually staying alive.
Web spinner. If that was a Timberwolf of some kind, maybe get in the game. Reels is still going to be patient. It's not like he's any pressure whatsoever. Can Forsen kind of pull out of this mess? He can also steal the web spinner with Cabal Shadow Priest and get a beast of himself.
But this puts him on lethal because Reels will have exactly 12 points of damage. With 2 minutes on board, he will create 4 dogs. So Leroy plus 4 hounds, it's 10 plus hero power.
Oh,
this
you're
is it.
right. And
my
a
God,
Timberwolf to end the
Timberwolf
game.
even.
So the plays have been denied, and Reels sends it to the final ace match, where it will be decided between these two teammates, a Druid versus the Hunter. As Forsen, his priest finally goes down, but not without some pizzazz.
Be turned around on that one turn.
By the way, I was kind of wondering how Reels snuck in things like 1 Freezing Trap and 1 Bow in his deck, and it seems like he's removed 1 board and a Timberwolf. Timberwolf is a card that you can kind of, and this Flares. Flares have been kind of cycled out very recently. For the past week or so, I feel like I haven't seen 100 run more than just 1. So now that he's squeezed out those cards, it feels like he has a little bit of everything. And that's why I was like wondering, how did he put all of this tech card, having an Iron Beak Owl and be able to run Deadly Shot while not giving up the Bow Freezing Trap and still be playing something like Hyena. So he's got lots of answers in different situations. And it makes sense too, because you have all these low drop beasts to continue chaining with web spinners. Some people run Direwolf Alphas, scavenging Hyenas, and then be able to fill up the board very quickly.
Certainly, it feels like he has everything. And guys, this is a free score in a best of 7 match. This is the last game. The winner will advance to the final, and the loser will get eliminated. You're watching Video Game Voters Network. Remember about our giveaway. Type in chat. Give us a giveaway. Give us a kappa. Give us a shout out. And this match, this game will be amazing.
I think so. It's going to be explosive. Nicely done, Nimsh. Good promotion of what's going on. The VGVN, by the way, for the people who don't know, because we do realize that when we first talked about VGN at the beginning of the day, there was a lot less viewers compared to what we have now. So a little quick background. These guys, they fight for their First Amendment rights. Oftentimes, the media kind of pegs unfairly that video games maybe lead to violence because of this. That's we all know that's not true, and it's a little bit of a scapegoat to try to unfairly peg it on these guys. VGVN tries to pass the awareness so that way they're voting on the right things. So go and show your support. Jumping into the board, Reels picks up Unleash the Hounds and Starving Buzzard. He doesn't know if this is a token druid, but if so, they're often filling the board with lots of small creatures. So Starving Buzzard Unleashed is paramount for your success if that is the case.
And a web spinner, and also a bow, so it looks pretty good for Reels already. On the other hand, Forsen's hand is so bad. Oh my god.
Yikes. This game could be ugly. Depends on if he picks up something like Innervate. It might turn out to be okay, but for now, it seems like the first 3 turns are just going to be watching what Reels does.
Iron Beak, a second one, thanks to the web spinner. This is pretty nice.
Maybe.
But on the other hand, Reels doesn't really have a card that he can play on turn 2. He has to use a Steady Shot. He doesn't have Animal Companion. He doesn't have a turn 4 card as well. Buzzard and Unleash is great, but you have to, your opponent has to play minions to actually use those cards.
Second Iron Beak Owl, by the way, is pretty nice because if Forsen drops the Spectral Knight, his opponent can't deal with it, you can just silence it, and all of a sudden you can. You can like Hunter's Mark it all of a sudden, while being able to say you use it to chain draw. Oh, Forsen picks up the Savage Roar. So again, it's a card that's going to be played much later in the game. So effectively, he has 3 dead cards in his hand.
Right now, Realz got Stone Tusk Boar, which is pretty cool because with Hunter's Mark and Stone Tusk Boar, he can get board control and actually kill the 4/5. But what do you do with Unleash and Buzzard? It's you want to draw at least 2 cards from here, and Forsen will probably be just playing 1 minion at a time. It's if Yeti gets cleared, he'll just play the Spectral Knight, and then if Knight is cleared, he will play Druid of the Claw. So it's like there are those big minions, and you won't be able to unleash effectively.
Yeah, you're exactly right. You know, with Yeti being revealed, it's a clear indication that Forsen is likely not to play the token Druid, more of a slower mid-range. Forsen does have Wild Growths too at his disposal. Unfortunately, he drew that a little bit late because he would have nice to have that even curve, especially if he goes first.
Oh wow, you can actually play Buzzard here. Buzzard into Iron Beak, into coin Haunted Creeper, draw 2 cards, and Hunter's Mark into a 4/6, only because you just silence it with an Iron Beagle and then kill it with a boar. So this is a way that he can actually use this Buzzard to draw cards and also build up the board. Other than that, just playing the Iron Beak and Haunted Creeper wouldn't be enough, and I feel like he's going for it.
Yeah, you know, in a way, you kind of mini unleash because you draw and cycle through your deck anyways, get closer to that high main, which is so important. If he picks up high main in the next 2 cards, his gamble will have been worth it. But I think this is a risk you kind of have to take. Depends on how things pan out. Let's see what the Haunted Creeper draws. It plays into swipe for sure, but I think that's what you got to do.
Oh my god, he actually got a Buzzard, so this definitely paid off. On the other hand, he wants those Savannah high mains. He wants those Lions because Lions are so good. And there is no swipe on Forsen's side. So he has to deal with this board somehow.
Yeah, and then when you play the Keeper of the Grove before you see something like Savannah High Main, you start getting really scared because the High Main comes out next turn and you're just, wow, how do I deal with that? You have to use Force of Nature to remove it, and that's, again, a piece of your combo.
Leroy. Oh, Leroy is pretty important as well. He will be able to Leroy with Unleash at some point. Even if Forsen doesn't play minions now, you have this 9 mana combo with Buzzard, Unleash, and Leroy that's actually dealing a lot of damage and nets you a lot of cards. Do you Deadly Shot, by the way? I think you just attack it with the bow and a spider, maybe. But what do you even do? Like, your cards are kind of conditional.
Is he going for the Deadly Shot?
I guess.
He is. Okay. Well, he wants to seize the board control that badly because, again, picking up things like Houndmaster and Savannah Highmane will make it that much easier if there's nothing on board. He does have Hunter's Mark as another removal. An Innervate from Forsen allows him to put out Scenarios, which does play into Unleash the Hounds, but at least he puts a really strong a series of 5/8 minions. And this might be the break that Realz was looking for to completely seal the game because it's an insta-call with the Unleash the Hounds. Something like Timberwolf will completely destroy the board and might seal the game for Realz.
If you see 3 minions, it's so good to unleash. You're getting 2 cards, it's fine. But if you're getting 3 cards out of this combo for 5 mana, spawn the board, get those cards, it's just so good.
Oh, I forgot he had the Eagle Horn Bow. It doesn't matter if he draws Timberwolf. Savannah Highmane and Lotheb have fallen into the lap of Realz. So Realz will go for the board clear. And he's also seen that his opponent doesn't have something like Swipe to clear the board. So, by all means, I think Realz is in a really big advantage at the moment.
Basically, it was so important for Realz because he had all those conditional cards that were pretty weak. But now he cycled all of them, he refilled his hand, and he has all the meaningful cards with Lotheb, Savannah Highmane, even Animal Companion with Houndmaster. Those cards are super good against Druid. And Druid will be able to play only, mostly 1 card each turn. So it will be pretty hard for Druid to actually stabilize here without a huge card like a Swipe with something. But those Haunted Creepers are kind of like immune to Swipe right now.
Yep. I know exactly what you're saying. It just doesn't feel good unless you're able to use something on board to kill off the first body of the Haunted Creepers. You don't really have like Swipe's not even that good in this situation.
Right now he can kill this druid with just Houndmaster into one of the spiders and a bow as well. He was super patient with Eagle Horbone. Like he's not running many traps, so this bow is mostly used for removal here.
What about
He has so many
Timberwolf?
options.
Timberwolf allows him to also remove while playing the Savannah High main. Or even Animal Companion. Almost whatever he rolls, it's 2 out of 3 chance for him to go for an easy removal.
He goes for Animal Companion. What is he going to get? Leok is important.
Just
I feel
not
like Misha is the
Misha.
worst.
Just not Misha.
Huffer is pretty nice.
Yeah, that allows him to go for the clear. He can play Lotheb, develop the board,
Lotheb,
and then
oh my
deny
god.
his opponent to go for a clear with something like combo, and then push for a really nice way. That way, Savannah Highmane comes down, and Lotheb plus the Haunted Creepers can just answer whatever's on board.
That Lotheb played like right now is so important. If he's going for it, you're exactly sealing the turn 9, but does it win you the game? That's the thing.
No, he's going to hold on to it and show a little bit of restraint.
He's going for the bow
All right.
here.
And he's making it still a little bit awkward on Swipe, but pushing out damage, so that way he can put his opponent potentially on lethal the following turn with Leroy as well.
Chillwind Yeti is not something that Forsen wanted to draw.
Nope. He can't even draw. He can't even cycle the Wild Growth and draw because he's not on 10 mana.
Also, I think it's pretty important to explain that why is Realz playing this way. He's doing those assumptions that there is no swipe. So Forsen gave him so many pointers that there is no swipe, and Realz is taking his chances with Forsen not drawing into swipe. But even with a swipe, this board wouldn't be cleared completely because the spider will still be there and the boar will still be there. So even with a swipe, it's not that easy.
Forsen is forced to try and defend as best as he can. How much damage does Realz have? He's got 8 plus 3 on board. He's got 11. He needs to draw 4 more damage with 2 mana that he can use. We can use his tracking plus Leroy Hero Power. He has 2 mana left. Can you do 3 more damage?
Now it seems like it's the Lotheb turn because
Yes.
now you definitely set up for a kill next turn. So you play Lotheb, you seal the Druid, and then you execute your combo. Well, you just play Leroy and straight up kill him.
Yeah, there's no way he can do that 4 extra damage right here. So I think the Lotheb does come out. High main also wouldn't be bad.
You've just seen one Force of Nature, so do you expect a second kind of... Well, your opponent actually has 5 cards in hand, and you've seen your opponent not do that much. So you can safely assume if there's no swipe, no minions that he actually played, there's a huge possibility that the combo is still there somewhere.
Well, I like the idea of hero power and getting him lower anyways. Do you want to drop Savannah Highmane or Lotheb plus a web spinner?
Oh yeah, definitely draw Lotheb plus hero power and maybe even web spinner.
Oh, of course web spinner.
Web spinner is a
Of
key
course
card.
web
Here.
spinner. It's about how you squeeze in. You're going to hero power. Savannah Highmane is extremely imposing. But Lotheb almost seals the deal. His opponent can't even use Force of Nature to clear here. Forsen draws an Ancient of Lore. That's not going to do it. He can't even cycle with Wild Growth to draw something effective. And Lotheb has potentially sealed this game. I don't really see a way out of it for Forsen.
That's why
I think
Lotheb is
that's
so
it.
important. Lotheb is not a card you play on turn 5. You play it if you have to. Then this YOLOtheb. But when you play Lotheb on those key turns, this is turn 9. Realz played Lotheb to just win the game.
Forsen has
can't
to
do
heal. He's going to go up to 15, but he's staring at 9 plus 2 from the hero power.
He's dead. He has 16 points of health. But this is 9 plus 6, 15, 17 points of damage in Realz potential.
Realz has Leroy, and that is one of the worst battle cries you'll ever hear in Hearthstone. Forsen goes for the concede, but I think he's just going to let... Oh, never mind. I thought he didn't get enough time. I thought he was going to let Realz be able to finish it off.